not
Good evening, everyone. We'll just give a few more minutes for people to join in and then we can kickstart this session.
Good evening, everyone. So let's wait for another couple of minutes because we have a good RSVP. Let's wait for others to join and then we'll start with it. Hi everyone. We'll start in another 1 minute. Till the time, if you wanted to start with your quick introductions, feel free to unmute yourself and then start with introductions. As well as if you have any suggestions or thought about this admin series, feel free to add your suggestions or feedback. I can see people started joining in. Okay. Without wasting time, let me start with the small introductions about the series. Along with me, there are five more speakers who is involved into this. Thanks a lot for all those speakers who is going to spare time on Jira administration series. Thank you all for joining this event, and we will try to make this best, which will be helpful for you in your learning journey. And whenever you feel you have any questions, unmute yourself, or if you wanted, you can add the question in chat as well. So try to be as or try to make this as interactive as oh, where this can be leveraged for your learning journey itself. So this is about Mumbai chapter. We have three champions. Myself, Deepak Rai. I am from the Mumbai itself, and I do works along with the Aradhna and Sarika to make or to facilitate the Mumbai chapter. We used to do regular virtual as well as in-person meetups, and this as a part of this initiatives, we planned six administration series where we are going to cover end to end about Jira administrations. So feel free to leverage all those sessions. I will post entire link in chat. Feel free to do the RSVP, and whenever you will feel or you have missed anything, we do have the recordings. I will share the recording after the sessions after 48 hours. We will publish the link on page itself. So feel free to join the Mumbai chapter page. So whenever a new video will be uploaded or new sessions will be published, you will get notified to it. So what we'll cover in entire series, initially we have planned for Jira Basics, where we are targeting onboards, project creations, configurations. Entirely, we are talking about Jira Basics. Then in further sessions, we are going to cover about permission schemes, project configurations, securities, and permission schemes. Along with that, in one of the sessions, we are going to cover about API structures and development, where we will see with practical examples. And we also plan to cover cleanup, admin perspective automations, and along with that a new concept which is rovo agent. We try to cover at least one use case end to end, so that you can use or leverage it for your company requirements, and some more examples planned which you will see it in further session itself. This is our Mumbai chapter WhatsApp group. If you want, feel free to scan this code and join it. So whenever we'll publish any events or any sessions, you'll get notified within the group. Spamming is not allowed. We are targeting only for those people who are really interested to learn and grow themselves. If they have any questions, they can even post in the group. They might get a frequent response from the experts. Scan this code just to join the WhatsApp group of Mumbai. These are the standard speakers which we have planned, but we are planning to include few more speakers in the further sessions part. So along with me, Aradhna Gupta, Piyush, Avneet, Vivek Bera, and few other speakers are planned. So we'll publish it sooner. That's it from my side. I will not take much time, and just wanted to announce one more thing. After the sessions, we plan to have Mentimeter questions as well. So feel free to leverage it. You might get rewarded. So top three sorry, top two resources will get rewarded with the vouchers which will send it to you, top two users, and one dedicated users we will plan to keep it for those who will ask more number of relevant questions. So feel free to add more number of questions and get it more engaged, not only with the questions. You can even you add your suggestions and thoughts. We'll try to evaluate it, and based on that we'll give you a vouchers which you can use it for your purchasing on Flipkart or any social media sites. So make sure to make this sessions interactive, and try to get as much as award possible. Along with that, we will going to publish this recording after the sessions itself within 48 hours of the durations. Now over to you, Aradhna. So Aradhna is from the Amrit Software, and she is having a decade of experience into the pre-sales, administrations, as well as technical aspects. So I would like to hand over this mic to Aradhna, where she can introduce as well as start the sessions from her side. Over to you.
Thanks, Deepak. Thanks a lot. I'm excited, yeah, for this entire series. How are you all? Are you all excited? Deepak, I don't think. Thanks, Vishal. Thanks, Naveen. Deepak, I don't think the participants can unmute themselves.
Okay, let me see the settings. Maybe we can till the time I
Right,
can
I'll
take it.
start. So
Yeah.
till then, please use the chat. And I'm happy to see everybody saying yes. I'm pretty excited. And without wasting a lot of time of anybody, I'll quickly share my screen and we'll begin. Uh, the quintessential question that I have to ask every time. I hope I'm audible and you can see my screen. Yeah, I take that as a yes, right? Okay. Deepak, could I ask you to keep a check on the chat because I'll be in a screen sharing mode and I'm not
Yeah,
able
yeah, sure.
to screen mode. I'm not able to check the chat. So please post your questions and till we figure out how to unmute, Deepak can read out those questions on your behalf. Great. So I'll get started with this session. Today we are here to talk about Jira, which is part of the Atlassian system of work. And this is the entire suite that Atlassian has. And I'm sure we all are aware of it. And Jira is very quintessential, a very essential part of this. And that is what we're going to look at today. So basically, it is our introductions, concepts and basics, what are workflows, a little bit of agile, how we do agile in Jira, and then a little look into the marketplace apps and how that help. Uh, just to make sure that this is the first session, we're catering to a novice. And if there are some experts, they may find it to be a little too basic. But the attempt is that we gradually build the technicalities of these sessions. So even if you have just basic knowledge of Jira, you can use this to refine it and grow. And with each session, you learn a little bit more. And by the end of this, you maybe not replace your existing Jira admin, but yes, you are capable of doing a lot that the Jira admin does. So that's the whole idea. This is a basic session. Maybe for a few of you, it could be repetitive. So just bear with me. Yeah, this is me. I'm Aradhna. I do work with Amrit Software. I am also the immunity champion at Mumbai for over 3+ years now. So I work very closely with Deepak and Sarika in helping shape this community, and we kind of started building it from scratch. And today we are a strong community. We have a lot of in-person events, and I'd like everyone here to also come and visit us when we have those in-person events. Because I'm going to be talking about Jira, a little bit about my Jira experience. I've been doing it for over a decade now. Just Jira itself, when cloud was not so prominent, it was more on the on prem. And with that, now we've grown and we're today here at where we probably will not see the on prem after a very long time. So that's where we are. That's how my journey with Atlassian has been. And I'd love to hear about y'all, like, what are your background? What is your experience with Jira? Is there anything that you want to learn, or what are your expectations from this entire series? Anything that can help me? See, do have a guide. I do have a content that I need to deliver in this webinar, but I would also like to know what is it that you want to know? What is your expert level? How deep or how basic should we go? Please feel free to put your thoughts in the chat, and I'll give you a minute before I consolidate that and go to the next.
I
Thank
believe
you,
most of
Anil.
you already have the permissions to speak, so feel free to add uh, uh, your words by unmuting yourself. So you will have the permissions. And if you're not speaking, make sure to unmute yourself. Otherwise, this might create distractions for the other participants.
So please let me know anything about you. Anil, I know about you. Anybody here who has come for this and they want to shed some light on what their previous experience about Atlassian is, where they are, what are their expectations from this workshop? Anyone?
I can see one comment from Mayank.
Yeah, I read that.
Thank you, Mayank.
Thanks, Naveen. Praveen, I could not hear you. Sure, Sanam. We'll try our best to put you at some level of expertise. Sure.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yeah, Praveen.
Yeah, hi. Hi, thanks for this session. I'm excited to learn more things. So, I've started using Jira application and admin 5 years ago. So we're slowly building up more number of users in the company. More and more, we are using the products of Atlassian. We are using Jira, JPT, Confluence. So we are seeing other capabilities also. We are using some other add-ons also. So I'm very much excited to learn. Especially, I want to learn more advanced topics, so we can reduce the issues or anything from the project teams what they are currently facing with the different challenges, porting from one project type to other project type. Like today, we don't have a portability that once it is created, team managed, we don't have portability to convert company managed or vice versa. Um, we have another challenges like if you create a workflows or any fields in the sandbox, we cannot migrate to production, right? So these kind of so many technical challenges or issues there. So we cannot directly go production also sometimes because we allow many users to get a global admin access and for their testing. So we cannot give the production. So instead we go with the sandbox and we do test there. But after all this doing testing and POC, we cannot take that outcome into production directly, and we need to redo that in production. So I would like to hear if there is any some kind of tips and tricks or anything, any workaround hacks or anything there to minimize this kind of a time. Okay, especially I want to check in case if you have anything part of this series or any advanced series is planned in upcoming future. Thank you. This is all about me. Thanks for.
Sure, Praveen. Definitely. So we have these series planned. We'll try to cover as much as we can, and as this series gains momentum, we'll add more sessions to it. We could add more sessions to it and make it add, answer all of these questions that you have. Okay, Naveen, Praveen, Sanam. Yeah, Sanam, thank you. Great. So what I understand from here, hi Mayank, Bhaskar, Rajendra. Yeah. So I've read all your comments, I've understood, and my understanding is most of you all have some experience in Jira and the Atlassian tool set. Great, that's very great. And Mayank, very rightly, we are going to start from the basics, and we're going to make sure that everyone understands just about everything about Jira as we build on to this. So with that, I begin this. Is somebody trying to say something? Okay. So if you are not talking, as Anil said, please use the mute and mute a little thoughtfully so that we don't cause disturbance. The chat is always open. And if you are not speaking, please be on mute. Yeah. So what exactly is Jira? We've all been working on Jira. We use it for different purposes. For me, or if you think about what Jira has been or how it has evolved over the years, for me, it is basically a issue or a task tracking tool. So you name any process that needs tasks that need to be tracked end to end, that tool for you is Jira. People call it a project management tool. Maybe it is. Some people use it for incident management, though it is not 100% compliant. It does give you some workflows, etc., that you can use for service or incident management. But in essence, Jira is basically a task tracking or an issue tracking tool. I'm sure since all of you have been around in this ecosystem for a long time, we know how important the term issue is with Jira. I will refrain from calling it issue. It is now a work item, and we all call it work items. But yeah, it is basically a task tracking tool, and any kind of task can be tracked end to end. It can be, obviously, it can get complicated. You can have linkages, dependencies, but in the very essence or the very core, Jira is a task tracking tool that allows you to track your task end to end through a process and get reporting around it with reports or dashboards, etc. So these are basically the main components that are there in Jira, right? There are work items previously known as issues. That is where you actually log your task, log what activity needs to be done. All my work items belong in a project. So project is a holder or a container in which I have all of these work items. Uh, then there are components and versions. We will speak about them in detail as we move ahead. But I have put workflow at the center of all of this. And the reason for that is, uh, I think one of the reasons why Jira is so popular is because of its workflow capabilities and the amount of configuration, complicated workflows, and customizations you can do to that bit of the configuration bit. And that's how easy it is and how convenient it is to tailor Jira to your processes rather than align your processes to the tool. And that is apparently, I guess, why Jira stood out so many years ago, and it still does that. I mean, being in this industry for over 2.5 decades now, dealt with a lot of tools. Most of the times the tools are very rigid, right? They tell you that this is the tool, change your process, fit the tool. Atlassian somewhere started to look at it very differently, and they said, this is your process. This is the tool that will facilitate it to bring your processes into the tool. And that is why the workflow management or the process management in Jira is at the heart of it, and everything else just works to make sure that your processes are aligned to, and you can map end-to-end processes within the tool. So, what is a work item then? I'm not starting with a project. I'm starting with a work item, and there is a reason for that, because work item is probably the workflow is what gives it the flexibility, but work item is what makes Jira. Work item is the building block of a project. There are different types of tasks that you can add to a project, and that then makes your project come alive. And we all know, if you're using Scrum, if you're using Agile, then it's Epic, Story, Task, Subtask. If you're not using Agile, if I'm doing plain waterfall, or I'm just doing a process management like a business process or a sales process, then it would just be task, say, or a subtask, etc. And we can customize it. We can have our own. With the premium version of Jira, you can have more hierarchies, you can have something above Epic, etc. So this is what forms the backbone or the structure to your project. And then, if I'm talking about a project, what is a project? If there are any project managers here or anyone who has learned about project management, we know that project has a particular definition, right? It has a start date, it has an end date. That is basically what a project is, right? You need to have a definitive start date and an end date. It needs to have a goal that you need to accomplish. It has resources that you need to use in order to achieve those goals. Jira is something like that, but not complete. A Jira project may not be the typical definition of a project. So you can't go in anywhere in Jira and say that this is the start date of the project or the end date of the project. Natively, you can't do that, because for Jira, a project is the holding of all the related items. A project could not just mean a project per se in our system. It could just mean related items clubbed together uh, for ease or for convenience, and that is what is a project in Jira. And it is associated with a key, and all my work types would be running serial numbers from that key. So that key is, you generally want to give some thought to what you want to call the project key, because you start identifying the project with that key, and you start identifying all the tasks or work items that are created with the key underscore a running serial number. A lot of people ask me, is there a way to tweak it? Is there a way that I can say start the number from 3153? As of today, it starts with 1, and it's a running serial number, and it just keeps building onto that. So that's a project, and that's issue or a work item. Then we have something known as components. So a lot of times people ask us if there is a sub project that we can have in Jira. When you look at project management tools, you start thinking of projects, sub projects, etc., modules for that matter. And component is somehow you can be used like that. It's like subsections of a project that you can club together. So if you can see in this example that I'm showing, there's a time tracking app that is being developed, and the components that it has are UI, database, business layer. So these are the modules. That's one way of using components. I have seen components being used in multiple ways. Some people use it as departments, some people use it for teams. Though there is something known as teams now, I have seen people use components very, very differently. And as I said, Jira is a very customizable tool. So if you can use your imagination and see you want to use the component, you can go in and use it. So basically, components give me something like when I akined it to a module, because there is something known as a module head, and in a component you can have a component head, and you can have all your tasks or work items that are created assigned to that particular module head when it is created. And that is why it is very similar to what a module looks like. But yeah, that's what a component is. So you have a project, you can break it down into components, and then you can have your task or work items that relate to that component. And then we have versions. Versions and releases are interchangeable in Jira. You club items together that you want to release at a particular time. Or if I'm building a software, the V1, V1.2, 1.3, all of those tasks can be clubbed together, and they are called then as a version. Versions can be marked as released, unreleased, archived, and they are overdue. So we can see all of that in the tool. So these are some components. Any questions anyone has so far? Now coming to very, very the core aspect of Jira, right? That is workflow. So what is a workflow? We all know workflow is a process. They're the steps that we go through, and that's what builds the workflow. It has statuses, it has transitions. Statuses, if you ask me, statuses are the nouns and transitions are the verbs. So a lot of times there are, when juniors come up to me, they ask me, but how do I know what to call the transition? And if you see most workflows, you'll have the statuses and transitions name as the same. So a very good way to do is a transition is an action that you're taking. So send for approval, update, and then the status is approved, updated, kind of a thing. So the transition, that's how I teach it to my, whenever I'm giving a training, or transitions are the verbs and statuses are the nouns or the end state that we want it to be. Yeah. So when we look at Jira, we spoke about projects. That is projects. Projects have components and versions. So components are like modules, and versions are milestones or releases that we want. Then there are issues. Issues are of various different issue types. So you can have an epic, story, task. I can have something known as a new feature or anything that I want, a sales item, anything that I want can be an issue or a work item. And then you have subtasks. So is what it looks like. Another concept that Jira has is project categories. So you can club projects together and add a category to the project. So it happens, for example, you have this is a Jira that is used organization wise, and I want to look at all the projects that belong to finance maybe. So I can have something known as finance, have the project category finance, and have all the projects tagged with that category, or have it HR and have all the projects tagged with that category. If I don't want to use components, or if I'm using components for something different, and I want to say that this project is for everything that is related to UI. So I can have a category called UI and break it down into the pages however I want to. And I can use my categories in that manner. If I'm using Jira for business processes, though there is a business category and a software category, I want to use the type of work that I'm doing as a category, I can go ahead and again categorize it as that. So that's like one more clubbing above projects that we have. Where that helps me is probably in my dashboards, when I'm filtering data out, when I want to work, when I want to set permissions and give permission to a particular set of data, I can use project categories and work on that. So this is at a high level how the architecture looks in Jira. And if you look at it from in a example, if you'll see, there is information technology. So that is a department. They're building a time tracking app. The time tracking app has components or modules known as user interface, reports, workflows, database, etc. And these are the different versions that they're going to release. They have work items, tasks under that. Those tasks are new feature, bug. See, a classic example, something like a support ticket. So why have I put that here? Because Jira, though we're talking about Jira software, which is meant for task management, process management, it is not unknown to use Jira as a service desk, where you log in support tickets and you start working on it. So these are the different types of tasks or issues that you can have, and that is broken down into subtasks. Any questions, any thoughts? Anybody wants to say something? I'll just quench my thirst a little bit till then. Anything from anyone?
Yeah, in the previous slides, we discussed about the workflows, what is the purpose of it. Hi, this is Praveen again. So actually, we also discussed about the issue type hierarchy. So currently, we don't have a flexibility that to set up a hierarchy on program based or project based. We do have a global hierarchy, like everyone has to follow that same hierarchy. We cannot leverage or customize our own project needs or program needs. So it was a maybe an important future for many customers that they're looking from quite some time. Any plans from Atlassian that they're going to customize in some way uh, to ease this benefit to customers? I don't know the technical complexities, but definitely somewhere some solution could be there uh, for itself.
Uh, yeah, there is a workaround definitely, Praveen, and that's a very valid point. There are a lot of things like between epic and story, right? Story task, I cannot go in and change that hierarchy. I can only add a hierarchy above epic, right? That's also one of the little limitations that Jira has today. And I can decide which issue type based on the issue type scheme I want to use. Attach to a particular project. So, though the hierarchy at a global level is the same, depending on the permissions and the issue type schemes that are attached to that project, only those issues are available, and therefore I kind of tweak it for that project. So that's like a workaround. And if you're asking if there is it's on the Atlassian roadmap to change that, I am not aware of something like that. They have a lot of other experts on this call with me. Anybody knows whether that's in their roadmap and if Atlassian is planning to bring about that feature?
Nothing as such. There's a no tickets. Nothing is raised as of now. So might be their upcoming release plan.
So maybe Praveen, what you could do is if there is they do have a service desk, they do have a portal where they take requests, right? So if you could just put that, it would gather interest, and if it catches their
I
interest, they could do
I
that.
think I did it already.
Oh, great.
As everybody know that any interest that we show, it will take a lot of time. It may be sometimes years also. You know that. I agree with Atlassian priorities and all. But if something is very important to business or the customer, maybe they can also reconsider the priorities and take it to their roadmap for building these important features for customer. That's what I want to do. Thank
Absolutely,
you for giving me the
absolutely.
question.
So that's why they
Thank
have that the portal up, right? Their suggestions, and the moment they see that it has garnered interest, I understand it is very important to your customers or to your organization, but Atlassian looks at what they have thousands of requests that come in, and what affects majority of customers, their customers, not, I mean, if I go back to Atlassian, I'll have like record sheets of what I want them to change. But I also understand that they have their priorities, like you rightly said. And if it's there and if it gathers interest, I'm sure they will. But if you want to look at workarounds on how you want to tweak it, maybe we can connect separately and we can see how we can tweak something like this for you till we get a feature that is available to do it out of the box. Yeah. Anybody else has any other questions, any other suggestions, any inputs that they have? Okay, great. So these are some terminologies in Jira. Users. So everybody is a user. People are called users. Then there are task types, which were issue types, work types, processes, which are workflows, release cycles that are called versions, and software components or modules that are called components. So the users create tasks within a project. The project goes through its various life cycle, and then a release is created and releases. So this is basically in a nutshell what Jira does. And the first part of it is very important. It is we, the users of Jira, who use the issues projects to create releases and deliver value to our customers. That customer could be an end customer or my organization. So, in short, this is what Jira does, and that was what the opening section was about what Jira does today. I will walk you through the tool in some time. Just first, I'll hit the reporting bits, then we'll work. So these are the boards. These are how you can visualize your work, right? We all know how Jira looks. We know those tasks, etc. So there are boards. Boards are how you, for each project, you have your boards. You can have multiple boards per project. They help you visualize that data, see some kind of grouping, some kind of formatting to your data. There are reports that are available out of the box, or you can make a few custom reports for yourselves depending on the type of project that you're using, whether you're using Scrum, you're using Kanban, or you're doing pure play waterfall. You have those reports available. There's a search. We all know JQL, we all know filters. There is search, and if you're on premium and above, then you have AI today, Atlassian Intelligence, that can help do that for you. And then there are dashboards. So dashboards are where I can have some graphical information. I can build a few things. I can have the same data, that is my project data, visualized differently for different groups. So the same data set, but the my management wants to see a different report out of it. They want to understand very differently. Whereas in day-to-day life, that managers, the team managers, they want to see a very different view of that data. They want to take different inferences from that data, right? So if you use dashboards, you can do that. You can use the same data, just create different dashboards for different sets of people, and it is available for them. So these are basically the reports that are available. These are standard reports. These are not the agile reports. These are the reports that are available. Yeah. And then there are dashboards. You can go in and configure your dashboards. You can create multiple dashboards, the same data point having different dashboards. So, and they can be shared with different types of people. And this dashboard is made up of gadgets. So each of this item here is called a gadget. Each of this is created and used within a dashboard. A dashboard can have multiple gadgets, it can have a layout, etc. There are different types of dashboards, gadgets that are there: pie charts, line graphs, etc. All are two-dimensional. We don't have three-dimensional or multi-dimensional gadgets out of the box in Jira. If you have add-ons in your environment, then the number of gadgets increase, and you can go in and use that. So my dashboards are a collection of gadgets. Gadgets are powered either by project data or filter data, and I can go in and bring life to those gadgets. A lot of people tell me that cross project reporting is difficult in Jira, and that is where you use the power of JQL filtering. Use project categories, use your smart JQLs, and then build those dashboards wherein you use those filters which are cross project and build those gadgets around them. Yeah. So then is the most important part, right? We were all talking about workflows and how to use workflows and what is it probably that we need to do and what is the hierarchy that happens in. So these are some sample workflows, right? You can see that there are certain statuses. It could be linear, it could be progressive. All of these, it could be simple as a to-do in progress done, which is by default there in Jira, or it could be a little more complicated, etc. Jira did come with, first it used to come with one default workflow. So one was a to do in progress done, and then there was a default workflow. However, now Jira has grown leaps and bounds, and each project type comes with its set of workflows. So when you look at this workflow, right, these are what are there in a workflow. You have these things in blue known as statuses. Then you have transitions, as I said, right? So this is the state that you're at. This is the verb. So you see it as start, progress, complete work, second level review, back to in progress. Your transitions are nothing but the actions that you're taking, and these are the stages where they are at. Along with all of this, it has certain conditions that you can add to a workflow. So having a status and a transition is good. It's very good, right? It helps you make very comfortable workflows. But what adds more power to it is the conditions, the preconditions, the post conditions, the validators, etc., that we can add to a workflow, right? So there are triggers. What are triggers? Triggers are some things that you say that when this action happens, do this, right? That's a trigger. One way to do it is automations. Definitely, we have automations. And then, as Deepak said, there's a whole session where we will talk more on automations. But if you don't want to use automations or you want to use these triggers to do things, automations come with certain limitations. When it's say limitations, it is number of minutes, etc. So if you want to do it within the workflow gambit of Jira, you have triggers where I can trigger an event. When an event is triggered, do something. So in my transition itself, I can say that this is the trigger and this is what will happen. I can set conditions. So I want this transition, like I want to say send for review. Send for review can only be done, say, by the assignee. It cannot be done by anybody else. Or who can review, who can say that it is approved? Only somebody from a certain group can say that it is approved, etc. All of these conditions on what helps you make a workflow more volatile, make it more comprehensive, is what a condition is. So though my workflow has 15 steps, not every user goes through the lifestyle of 15 steps. They just go through the lifestyle of 10 steps. Other 5 are condition based. Only if this happens, do this. Only if you're in this role, do this. Only if the previous condition has done this, do this. So all these are conditions, and they also can be set within a workflow. Like I said, all of this is part of automations too, but natively Jira workflows allows you to set validators, conditions, triggers, and
Sorry, Aradhana. There's one question by Mayank. Can you
yeah.
explain trigger with practical example?
Sure. What I'll do now, Mayank, I'm going to go through the walkthrough and I'll show you to build a trigger within the system, and we'll share trigger workflow, validator, post condition. Is that okay?
Yeah, he confirmed.
Sure. Thanks, Deepak. Right? And then there are validators, right? Who can perform this activity, or this cannot be, needs to be mandatory. Without this, it won't go ahead, etc. All of these are validators. So there are conditions, there are validators, and then there are post functions. So post functions are what happens after this happens. So after I've transitioned to approved, do certain things like send a mail out or add this value to that field, because I've approved, now assign it to the development team or something like that. All of that can be done in post functions. Again, all of this can be done via automations, but natively this is what Jira lets me do. Okay, so these are post functions. Yeah, and then this is something that we are all trying to be better administrators, and these are a few things in my experience I think a lot of people do. Using single user conditions, only allow Aradhana to do this, because today Aradhana is the only person who does this in your organization. That's always a big no no. Everybody knows that we cannot do named conditions. I usually have a group, and I say I add Aradhana to that group, and I say only people in this group can do it. And then you just need to go and change that group. Uh, this is a very important thing, using validator on a field without adding the field to the transition screen. So we do have a screen, we say that it is mandatory or this needs to be done, but that screen does not have that field, and then it fails and you wouldn't even know that it fails. It's just a small error that comes, nothing works. So all of these are small issues that we need to look at. I do have slides on what goes where in a system, but yeah, these are some workflow issues that we need to look at. We do not have conditions that, so sometimes we really write stupid things, not because we are stupid, but because we do not sometimes think whether that is going to be able to fulfill in our. That's why you have to be sure that your conditions do happen and they can be validated. A very important field is resolution. I know a lot of people who have done, but they do not set the resolution. So Jira has a very important field known as issue resolution, and when you mark that as one of the resolved resolutions, it does help in your reporting. So a lot of your Scrum reporting, a lot of that looks at the resolutions that you have set and it builds it on that. So we need to set resolutions. By default, there is a done resolution that would get set. And yeah, again, when you
Yeah.
add, yeah,
Hi, Arana. This is Praveen again. So thanks for getting that post function with the
mm,
resolution. So in fact, I was typing the same thing. I used
mm,
to do the post function for resolution setup. So can something that can be make it as a standard? Because each
it's,
time we will have a lot of projects that comes.
mm,
Most of the customer, 99% of projects comes with the customization of workflows. It
right.
won't live with the. So is it something that we can bring a standard solution for all the projects? Instead of we do set up a post function, sometimes we forget, right, and only will notice later point of time. So maybe I'm thinking that if it is a standard future solution that comes right for each and every workflow, as soon as we see done status, what is the final status in the workflow, right? Final status, it can be something logically can be known, which is the final status of the workflow. Okay, based on that, no, the post function can be automatically set to make the resolution status as done rather than manually setting up, because we have a lot of technical advancements we are doing and certain things we are still doing it manually. So I'm just
You
thinking and
definitely
brainstorm
can
here.
do that. You definitely
Yeah,
can do that. But if you look at more complex workflows, right, there are a lot of dones. I mean, there are a lot of status that show that this workflow comes to a done status. It's not complete. That's the only workflow. So when I look at a complex workflow, sometimes denied is where that workflow shuts. Sometimes it is completed that it is shut. So the
yeah,
same
I
work.
agree. Yeah, you mean to say the status category, that with the done
Exactly.
category,
So there's
right?
not
So
one done. Many
yeah,
complex workflows, right? Is not one done.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we
I
could,
agree
however,
with
for
you.
your instance, we definitely, there is a way where you could set it by default to be as done when it comes to certain, and you can use that template across your projects rather than having to do it every time. So there is a workaround to it. Whether Atlassian will build that as a feature is something I can take back to Atlassian, but I don't think I can answer that question as to whether or
Yeah,
if it
something in
can.
my mind that you see, each and every transition we create, we get some number ID, the technical ID. So we should see that what is the logical or technical ID for that last step on the workflow, and do a condition check that no, if that is the last step in the workflow or not. Based on that, they can set up the post function automatically. The resolution status is done. Probably something. It may not be a nice idea, but I'm just throwing my
You can actually
insight.
try that out,
Something.
right? You could try to create a small Forge app and try if that works. And if it does, and if it does track resolution.
Unfortunately, we are not allowed to use third-party application like Forge app. Although a lot of technical and tools are
So
there,
you could
we
do
have a lot
that.
of
You could
security.
build that and put it on the marketplace. And tomorrow you could have
Ah,
a
okay.
lot of people who may have
Oh,
the similar requirement and want to use that. So it's
I
your
like that.
IP, right? It's not
I
something that
like
you
that
want to
idea.
see.
Thank you. Thank you. I like that idea. Thank you.
No, that's a
Thank you
very
very much.
good point, and you could definitely try that. Right. Yeah. So like you could,
Anything,
yeah.
anything in the custom point of view, maybe you can always reach out to any of these experts who have joined it, right? Because just considering the time shake, we won't be able to cover everything in one sessions, and that's the reason we have planned the entire series. And based on the interest of the users, maybe we can plan it even advanced sessions.
Yeah. Sure. So one is setting and removing resolutions, and second is having too many steps. We sometimes feel that it is needed, but believe me, when I have spent a lot of time cleaning up my clients' workflows, and a lot of steps are redundant. So we need to very carefully think how many steps are needed in a workflow. Nobody wants a workflow to go on and on. So these are some very common workflow mistakes that I have seen, and if the more better admins we want to be, the less of these we need to do. I'm sure there are tons more we can add to it. And one these are only pertaining to workflows, but there are tons and tons that we can think about. I will just talk about one thing and then we'll move to the workflow. And Mayank, I remember that you want to see the workflow transitions in play. So this is something that when I was starting with Jira, right, it was kind of like a Bible because Jira admin, the entire configuration scheme. Now with SaaS, we don't really look at a lot of these things, but when we want to do debugging, when we want to know exactly what is happening inside, you need to know how this works. And this is how your Jira is built. There are fields. Fields are placed on screens, right? Now, these screens are mapped to screen schemes or to workflow. When we have a transition screen, your screens are mapped to transition screens or to screen schemes. These screen key schemes are in turn mapped to my issue type configurations. So each issue type screen scheme will have a screen scheme that is attached to it, which then actually represents one screen. Similarly, a field which is placed on a screen will have a field configuration telling how it works. Then it has a configuration scheme. So a same field may work very differently on two different projects because the field configuration scheme is different for two different projects. And then you have workflow and you have a workflow scheme. That workflow scheme is also attached to a project. So there is an issue, there is an issues type scheme, and then there is that scheme that is project. Similarly, there is workflow. That workflow belongs to workflow scheme, and that scheme belongs to a project. There are fields. Fields have configuration. Again, those configurations can belong to the configuration scheme. That scheme attaches itself to a project. So by default, when you create something, Jira builds all of these for you. But as an admin, when I want to lower the impact that something is happening, or I want to lower the load on my instance, I, there are times when you going to consolidate those fields. Like, one biggest problem we see in most instances is having thousands of custom fields, right? The one way is using field configuration and field configuration schemes and using that in a project, so that though you have the same field having different kind of configurations, mandatory somewhere, not mandatory somewhere, on different projects and different schemes, yet the field is the same. So you're not creating redundant fields in your system or screens in your system. And reusability, recycle, reuse. So that's exactly what we say. Reuse as much as you can so that the load in your instance is low. So this is something I was taught when I started taking up Jira Administrative 10 years ago. And now a lot of you all may not. If you've just started off with a SaaS based thing, you may not even register. But if you go in and look at your system info and your work items, you will see that all of this is there and you can understand how that works. And you may need to tweak it at any given point of time. Yeah. So this is exactly what a field configuration is. This is just talking a lot about all of that. What I'll do right now is get into the system and show you the system, right? So yeah, these are the type of fields, right? There are system fields that are there are custom fields that you add, and then there are custom field types on which my custom fields are built. This is again, so this is sometimes a big culprit. Sorry, custom fields are a big culprit in any instance, because people just build it at the random whim and fancy, even admins, without seeing if one already exists or how you can reuse something that is already there. And that is why we need to be conscious of which scheme or which field configuration it belongs to. So that said, I'll quickly walk into Jira, and if anybody has any questions, anything till I bring my screen up, please feel free. So this is my Jira screen. I hope it is visible to everyone. I'm going into an issue. So if you see, all of these schemes, etc., are already there. Your field configuration scheme. Everything has a scheme, and that's what makes it so flexible. In fact, right now we are on SaaS. We don't think so much about infrastructure, but previously we started off on-prem. Most of the experts who are in Jira today started out on on-prem, and where infrastructure was not that easily available, and in those time infrastructure was expensive, and we needed to be very careful. Like, if my Jira was slow to load, I didn't have an Atlassian to go to because it was my infra. I had to know why it is slow, why is the re-indexing taking so much time, etc. So that made us go back into all of these and see all of this. How many schemes do we have? Does each of my project do the same thing, use the same set of tools, and still has this different schemes to it? So that is exactly why you need to know that they exist and how you can use that. So I'm just showing you a walkthrough of the workflow right now, so we can see exactly how we So this is a, I'm sorry, that's a very lame. Okay. So there are two ways you can do a workflow. There's a diagrammatic, which is a GUI based, and there is text, which is more text based. So you can, if you it's your comfort. I find that most beginners want to be in a diagrammatic mode because it gives you a visual representation of what you need to do. These are the statuses, these are the transitions, and you can add status, you can add a transition, you can do all of that. Now, if I just go in here, you see these are everything that is there. So I've said send from in progress to in review. Send for review is my transition. These are, so there's zero, nothing else is there, but there is a trigger. Let's see what that trigger is. Yeah. So what this is doing is the moment I send it for a review, Mayank, it is automatically creating a pull request for me in my Bitbucket is integrated with him, or if any of your Git is integrated with it. This is the trigger in
No,
Jira.
we are able to just see request for full stack developer screen,
Huh?
not trigger screen.
1 second. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Got it. Understood. Let me just share my entire screen. Mm-mm-mm. Can you see it now?
Yes, basically.
Yeah. Sorry for that. So this is the workflow. These are the transitions, and this is the these are the statuses, and this is the transition. And I'm here. It is send for review transition from in progress. This is a development task. It is to do in progress. I'm sending it for review. The developer is sending it for review, and you can see these are the conditions, etc., that are here. There is a trigger, and let's see what this trigger is. So this is the trigger. What happens is when the developer on Jira, it is two ways, right? We all know about smart commits that happen in any of my Git products. The moment I do a smart commit from there, I can transition Jira. But if I'm in Jira and I'm saying, okay, I've sent it for review, automatically it is creating a pull request in my Git Bitbucket or my GitLab or GitHub, whichever is my Git that is integrated, and it starts creating those pull requests. So somebody who has to review the code, they already get a notification in their VCS that they need to start doing it, and they start doing it. So this is one example of trigger. There are multiple examples that you can do, right? When I do when it is rejected, when it is all of that, I can go here and do this trigger. Mayank, do you have any follow-up questions on this? Yeah. So yeah, these triggers. Similarly, we have conditions. You can have multiple conditions that you want to add in a workflow. So if you see this, these all, when you have add-ons in your instance, automatically their conditions are included, and it tells you that it is from that. But otherwise I can always create, so compare number field, see that it is greater than 0, it is equal to 100. Only an assignee can do it, only a reporter can do it, etc. All of these things can be used as conditions. Conditions are checked before the transition happens, and post functions are done after the transition. So trigger is something also that happens after. So after this is done, it triggers another event condition is it checks before allowing. So if I say only the assignee can do this transition, so only an assignee can send it for approval, for example, then that send for approval transition in my workflow, in my screen over here, will not be available for anybody other than the assignee. So that is how a condition works. Validators are validating your input, and you can have, sorry, I'm very conscious that we're over the time. I'll just finish this and I'll open the floor for questions if you have any. So there are a lot of validators that are available. So whether it's a date validator, you want them to put a date that is only today or within the next 5 days or whatever that is. You want to validate the input that the user gives, and that is what a validator is all about. So you can add those validators. Validators, so conditions happen before, validators happen while you're doing an input, and post functions happen after that condition is executed. So if I want to add a post function, so something very simple here was add a comment, right? Add a comment to the issue. Everybody knows that a work log is added. So any kind of post after the transition is made, if you want to do something, you can go in and do that from here, from the post function. Again, everything that comes with this is all that comes with add-ons. So if I have script runner, I'll have a different set of functionality that is available, etc. But by standard, anything that is not here is my standard uh, post functions that I have available. I'll take a pause here and I'll open the floor. Is there anything you want to see in action? Any questions you have? Anything? I'm very conscious that we are 4 minutes over the time. So please feel free to ask me. I have some time, and if others are short of time, you can choose.
You can see couple of questions in chat related to trigger and
Okay. No, it does not slow it down specifically, Sajid. Can one trigger will allow only one condition? Mayam, could you just explain what you're trying to say? I'm not very clear about what you're trying to ask me.
Basically, I mean, you as you showed, the trigger is having conditions which is having a radio button. So can we select only one, or we can select? I mean,
You can add multiple triggers, right? So
so I mean, for one trigger, we need to put one condition only.
that's right. That's right. One trigger does one job. So the say if I
I mean, if I want to allow multiple, like, as there is some point where it is mentioned that some comment done by respective person. So if I want to allow for the multiple persons, so multiple roles or multiple things. So
multiple times you'll have to do the same thing. That's right.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
that's right. Or you use an automation, which is probably then a better option to use, because there I can combine all of that and put one or make it one automation.
all right. Can we add sorry, some customized conditions, right?
Customize conditions as in
As in, I mean, as you shown, there are some predefined conditions, right? So
hmm?
if I need to add some specific thing related to Zeta only, so can I add extra condition in that?
There is a few little generic conditions that are available, but this is basically a no code kind of a solution, right? So if I say like, hide from user condition, or if I want to say only reporter condition, these are all pre-built conditions that are there.
Okay.
Uh, if you want to do something more dynamic, as I said, maybe you have something like a script runner or you use automations to make it more dynamic. But if it is very simple, no code, low code you want to do, then
Mm-hmm.
you have to use these pre-built. These are pre-built conditions that are available. So if your requirement fits in this group, you can go ahead and use it. Else you'll have to use automations or look at an add-on to do a few
Okay.
things.
Fine. Thanks.
No problem. Yeah, Sajid, I'm reading. Okay, it's still 6:30. Great. If it's still 6:30, we have time. I'm not sure if it's blocked till 6:30 or 6, Deepak. Could you just
we have blocked till 6:30.
Oh, great.
So
Uh,
maybe we can again spend if you have time. 10 more minutes, and then we can continue with the Mentimeter questions
Yeah,
and
let me
take
just
the
look at
for the
the
questions.
questions and then I'll go back to my
Hmm.
screen. Yeah. Sajid, what do you mean by changing triggers? Chaining triggers. Okay, yeah, multiple trigger reaction, right? Uh, we could do that, I think, but then you can look at automations which allow me to do that, do an if else, etc., do a nested if condition. So there is a time when you choose to use an automation, and there is a time when you choose to use a validator, or a trigger, or a post function, right? Uh, Obviously, it is a lot of experience that tells you which is a better one to do, and also depending on the resources that you have. As I said, automation comes with its limits, but I would be very careful on not overloading my conditions. I don't want, if something goes wrong, I have to go and see which condition out of that four failed. When if I could club all of that in one automation and just see, okay, this automation failed and this is what the log is telling me. Mostly I use specific field to make field mandatory for specific transaction. Praveen, could you just elaborate?
No, I just give an example that conditions based that you explained sometime back,
Mm,
right? So I mostly use that for making specific field where mandatory on specific transitions.
got it.
So
Yeah. So if instead of
just
using
want
a
to give an
field
example.
configuration
Yeah,
scheme, you use the workflow condition to make it mandatory.
exactly. Just an example I wanted to share.
Sajid, there are no dumb questions. Everybody learns, and I don't. I very strongly believe there are no dumb questions. So, yes. Uh, uh, Other than automation, one automation or JMWE, that is Jira Workflow Extension, that is again a no code kind of an automation tool that we use. If you know scripting and you want more flexibility, I would use Script Runner. It is one of the most popular add-ons, but yeah, it is not a no-code one. It is, you need to know Groovy scripting, and you can use that. Otherwise, there are a lot of automation tools, but yeah, Script Runner, JMWE are some that you use very. I have seen being used very popularly. Anybody else has anything else? Please, yeah. Yeah, like Deepak said. So it depends whether you want to write code or do you want a no code one or a low code. So like Atlassian automations are, they're not no code always, they're low code, right? I can still write code in them and do a lot of things. Script Runner again is not no code or low code. You need to know to code to be able to write it. It does comes with some pre-built scripts, etc., that you can use and tweak. And then JMW etc. are basically no code, right? You saw my condition screen. It had a lot of JMWE related conditions. So Jira by default comes with limited conditions. A few add-ons add to it. Great. Anyone has any more questions?
Yeah, Radna, one last question from my side. I mean, as we are working in our office premises, so we don't have any access of this hands-on and anything like that. So, do we have anything to what we have learned from your session we can apply on that and it's such kind of environment?
Of course, of course. So there is a trial that is available, right? A free trial that is available of Atlassian Cloud. And when you take that trial, it can come in you can take it in your personal email ID, right? Your Gmail or whichever email ID you use. And you can go in and add these add-ons to them too. And these add-ons come with a 30-day trial. So you have 30 days to play around with those add-ons also.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Great. So, is there any more questions? Or, I mean, I have a lot that I can showcase, but yeah, do you have any more questions before I just start going back to a little more? Okay. So, we were looking at, I showed you that big diagram, right, over here, about how all of these fit in the Jira ecosystem. So that is what a field configuration is. Like Praveen said, he uses the post conditions to do it. And yeah, another way to do it is create field configurations. Then you don't have to write those post conditions everywhere. You say how this field behaves in this screen or in this project, and you create a field configuration. Then you have a field configuration scheme. So for this scheme, for bug, this for this issue type, this field will work like this, whereas the same field in a change will work differently, kind of a thing. So that is the power of field configuration. It's a probability matrix, you can have one is too many. So the same field for different issue types will behave differently. So you're not, for example, look at it, I have something known as test environment needed. Okay, now that is one field, it's a mandatory field, it's yes or no. In bug, it has to be mandatory. In change, it doesn't have to be mandatory. And in service, it is not even needed on that screen. For example, I don't want to create three different fields, right? So I create the same field, I create a configuration of that, I say where it is mandatory, and then I add it to an issue type, and I say how it behaves, and that issue type then goes to the issue type scheme. So issue type bug in project A has it as mandatory. Issue type bug in project B has it as non-mandatory. Issue type change in project A, it is not, it is there but non-mandatory. Issue type service in project A, it is not even there on the screen. So that is how many permutation combination you can build from these configuration schemes. Believe me, when I didn't know the power that it had, I used to get irritated. I didn't know why Atlassian had made it so complicated when I initially started out, because one thing I miss out and my whole schema is messed and I cannot find out where what is. But when the moment I started to learn and develop expertise on it, I realized that it's extremely powerful and it gives you so much control and power and so much to play around with. It's like this matrix that you can build and create real complex things with very few resources and build your sessions out there. Again, screens. So there are screens. It's a subset of all my fields. And I can decide what is seen on a create, on an edit, on a view, or on my transition screens, etc. Obviously, Atlassian screens have grown leaps and bounds from where it started, and today you can do a lot more on my screens. There's something known as transition screens. So when we saw a transition, right, you can actually attach a screen to that. So in my create screen, I have 4 fields, for example, that I need inputted on. But when it is going into, say, I'm rejecting a review, I need to add comments to that. I need to give proof of why I'm rejecting, or I need to make something mandatory in that. You can use that in the transition screen. So it is not seen on the create screen. It is only, it comes into picture only when it has reached that stage. So conditional use of these fields on screens can be done via transition screens. So you can go and add, remove things to your screen. There are screen schemes. As I said, the same bug screen can be different for different projects. Then there is issue types. So again, the issue types can have different schemes. These are the common, there are system fields. These are the not even seen on my project. Type, description, summary is something, it is the reason it's in bold is I can't do anything about it. It's a mandatory field. It needs to be on my screen every single time. Custom fields. There are different types of fields now. There are much, much more types of fields. You need to very diligently know which one to use. Cascading, multi-select, select, which is it that you need. We spoke about resolution and why resolution is so important. Yeah, and then it comes to, so Jira predominantly is an agile tool that helps you do your agile or plan your agile projects, right? So it allows you to do this iterative and incremental development, whether it is Kanban or Scrum, and it allows us to do both together, right? When you may say, why both together? So a Scrum, when I'm doing my development, I want it to be sprints, right? I want things to be put into a backlog. I want them to be put in sprints. I need to prioritize them. I need to work through those work items, etc. But when I'm looking at bugs, I may not want them to be. I want the testers to just do a FIFO kind of a process and get through all my bugs, for example, or my non-development task. I know that's not 100% agile, because agile says everything is part of one team. But if I'm looking at how modern IT teams work, where Very few are 100% agile, most of them are hybrid and they use these. That's when you can have both Scrum, Kanban in one project. Jira is not restricting you. You can have multiple boards and build multiple boards within the project using the same data, and different teams can then use different boards to track their projects. So in Scrum, this is what happens, right? There's a project that is configured. You add tasks to it, that you create a version, and then you have the entire sprint. That's an iterative cycle that goes on, right? You have sprints that run. Each sprint outcome is a release, and when all your work is done, you wrap up a project. So that's the basic agile software development or a Scrum software development life cycle that happens. Now in Jira for Scrum, what is it that we have? We have backlogs. You can see your entire product backlog. You can map it to sprints and you can see your sprint backlog. You can prioritize your product backlog. You can groom it. You can add it to epics. You can add versions to it. You can add ranking to it so that people know which is the next item they need to take up. Then it has a sprint backlog. So once I create sprints, when I go into my sprint, I can see my sprint backlog. I have my active view sprint. So whichever sprint is active, Jira, if you go and change the configuration, you can have multiple active sprints at the same time. So if I have multiple teams playing, I can have those multiple sprints, active sprints. By default, it is one active sprint per project. And the sprint board is used to do your daily stand-ups, etc., so that you know what's happening. And then you have reports for these, your burn down, burn up, velocity charts that support Scrum. So this is all that is available within Jira. And then, yeah, as I said, there's a product backlog. There are sprints. We look at this in the product. Then there is a lot of reports that allow us to get sprint. So it depends. If you've taken while creating a project, if it is a Scrum based project, you get these reports. You also get those issue types. So you get an epic story, bug, task, etc. And if you're doing a standard, then you don't get an epic. You just get a story, task, bug kind of a thing. And you get reports also likewise, depending on the type of project that you have created. So there are boards, right? So you in Agile, there's an active sprint board, but I can have multiple boards, and that's how you create a board. It can be from a project. Filters are very important. If you know how to use filters, you can do that, and your board can be created, can show data from that filter. You can configure the board. What are the columns that you want to see? What is the data that you want to see on it? How do you want to group it, etc.? All of that is possible. And then you start using it, as in you use it to manage your backlog, you use it during your daily stand-ups, to report on progress, etc., right, where we are, to give a view to people. So anytime, at least me in my internal projects, when I see what is happening, I'll just open their board and I'll see where everything is. If it's in a Kanban, I'll see what my max lists are, if anything is turning red, and if anything is an indicator, if there are maybe more than 5 or 6 items in progress for that week, I know, because we do large scale implementations, we know that that is a problem, right? It's going to be a bottleneck. So then you can use that to actively monitor your project. Somebody told me that they wanted to be a Scrum Master, and you can use all of these tools to then use Jira as a tool, as a Scrum Master, to keep an eye on the project, to see where the bottleneck is and where you need to go and get help, and who can then help move this forward, etc. All of that is possible via the Scrum board that we have. So this, as I said, it can be from a project or from a filter. You give it a name, you build your, yeah. Then you, once you have all your data, you would groom your backlog, right? So the backlog is probably the most intimidating thing, because it has all the tasks that you've put in, at least at a high level. You've put in the epics, you try to break it down to stories. The product owner is coming in and putting data into my backlog, and then I need to start estimating it. Again, Jira allows both types of, doesn't allow, it allows time-based estimate, and it allows story pointing. It doesn't allow the other t-shirt sizing, etc., kind of estimation that some agile methodologies use. But if you're using story points or you're using effort tracking, you definitely can go in and build that out. And you can use both also, so I have seen people where my epics are in stories, sometimes are story pointed, whereas the task under them, the actual task in subtasks that are broken down are estimated in time. Because epic I cannot estimate in time, right? It's a huge chunk of work that needs to be done, and I say, okay, no, this is a size 8 or a size 9 or a size 5. Whereas the task you can, because it's going to take a day or a two, etc., to get it done. And I've seen them being used together, and there is no right or wrong. uh, with my experience in agile tells me that though the agile manifesto has a lot of rules, most of us have our own form of agile. If you have the basics of agile in place, that is people over processes, working tools over documentations, all those 5 principles in place, you can actually go in and tweak a few and make it meet your processes and get the most out of the framework and the tools that you're using. Yeah, so there are epics. You create your epics, you have to add stories to your epics. I've added releases to them, and they can all be grouped together. So then your backlog is grouped in by epics, it's grouped in by releases. You can see all of these releases, it's estimated. A lot of people have a lot of problems because they don't estimate. They start working on something without estimating it. It's very difficult to get reports out of a tool, or to understand, get any understanding if you don't estimate. The first thing is you have to have some high level of estimate when you start creating story, at least from the level of story, task, subtask. Those estimates become very, very important for me to dive in further and understand what is happening, or understand what this project or this plan would look like. Yeah, so you groom a backlog either on priority, you can drag and drop it. We can see that. I won't get into running an active sprint now. I'll just walk you through a sprint. Deepak, my Jira is visible, right?
Yeah, I can see your board.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So you see, this is a Kanban board. I have everything here as a Kanban board. If I go here, this is my Scrum project. You can see the number of projects, boards I have here. So this is one board that I have. There is a bug board which is only seeing my bugs here. And you can go in and configure any of these things here. You can go in here and you can configure everything that you have from here. You can group. So I'm grouping it with queries, right? Queries is something that I write a JQL and I say group it by that. But I can go in here and group it by assignee. So now it is everything that is assigned to Aradhana. So that's how you can group it. So all of these, how you, depending on what you're doing that day and how you want to run that stand up, or what you want from the board, you can go in and use that over here. So you can go in and do all of that. I can have a multi-project board too, right? If I use a JQL which is multi-project, so then I can group it with projects. So this is only one project, so when I group it with project, that's what I get. But yeah, you can go in and do all of that. And then there are quick filters that you can do. You can add a lot more filters if you want into this board. You can see what you want here, how you want this to look. So this is basically how a board looks like. So I have all of these boards in this project, right? And if I go to a backlog, I will go to see, I'll get to see backlog. I can go in here and probably create a new board. As I said, the project is not a Scrum project or a Kanban project. The project is a project. When I create a board, I decide whether I want a Scrum board or I want a Kanban board. And I can go in and create either of this. And Mayank, you're talking about playing with data, because to get any kind of input, I want to kind of have some data to play around with. You don't want to do data entry, just do this. I've taken some sample data. So Jira is just putting its own data into it, and you'll have some data and you can just go around and play with it. So that is something that you can use for your boards, etc. If you don't want, otherwise creating very complicated boards for you to play around with does take time. Yeah, so it's create while creating its board. Because I said use sample data, it is creating those issues, it's doing all of that for me, and it's taking a little more time than it should. So it's created this board with sample data. As you can see, there is a backlog. I can drag, drop it here for the ranking. There's already one sprint that is active right now. And because this is an active sprint, I have this active sprints board available here. And you can have data in this active sprints board. Where did all the data go right now? And I can go in and create another sprint if I need to. So if I go in here and I say create a sprint, it will create another sprint. I can drag and drop things here and say what all will belong to this sprint, etc. I can go ahead and do that. So I have created another sprint. Whenever this needs to start, I can start it. I have added story pointing here. I put a priority here. I can assign it to people from here. So this is a board that you use. You can create an epic. I don't have an epic. I can assign it to an epic and say, okay, this all belongs to this epic, etc. So I can go ahead and do all of that. Then when I group it, etc., I can see that when I group it in my board, I can go and see all of that here. So this is how you can play around with the boards. These are a lot of things that is, this is a summary. So whatever has happened in my project, I can come here and see. And one of the I didn't speak about this. I spoke about reports, I spoke about dashboards, but now in the SaaS version you have something known as a summary, which tells you at a large what the project can do for you, where you are currently, what your workload is, what your teams are, how many stories, what are the types, what is the task in progress, etc. So I'm in dire straits, right? 11 is still in to do, somebody's not looking and picking it up, etc. All of that you can get from this summary. There's a timeline view. If you don't have advanced roadmaps, you have epics, you can go in and see the timeline view here. And this is actually because it's very agile oriented, you can get Scrum. My sample sprint 3 is supposed to get done in this month, etc. So all of that is done. These are versions that need to be released. This is the version date. Sprints, I can see a calendar view. So this is a calendar view. So these are the dates that are there of the sprints and the versions. Versions are, as I said, interchangeable with releases. That's available here. I have a lot of reports. Now this is a Scrum, so I have burn down, burn up, sprint, velocity, all of that. If you go to a Kanban board and you see the reports available, they will be different. You will have cumulative. You won't have burn up, burn down because that's not there, right? These are not there. Everything a version report, everything else is there in uh, a Kanban, and then these are common across project types. These are different views to see the same thing. So this is a list view. It is listing everything down and in hierarchical manner, so you can see the task story, all of that. This is another view. If you have forms, we've not spoken about it, but if I want to intake data rather than a create button, I want to share a form, I can do that, and they can create forms, etc. We spoke about components. You can go in and create components, and that can be available for you. So as I said, like a module lead, component has a component lead, and you can say who will be the default assignee. Will it be what you set as project settings? Will it be the component lead or project lead or whoever it is? So that's how you can create components. One thing that you can see here is Jira components because with Compass, which is another product of Atlassian, there is Compass components that are available, and that also could be, you could use that. So that's a term that is very confusing these days. That's why they call it out specifically and say that it is Jira components. We spoke about releases, so you can go here and create your versions. It shows all the tasks that are there in that version, where I am, what is happening, etc. in that version. All of that is available here. and I can create more releases. I can give it a name, etc., and add more tasks to it so you can plan how that is going and all of that. When you see reports, you can also see whether your release is going to happen on time or not. These are all, if it is integrated with your Bitbucket, etc., you can see what your pull requests are, what all of that is. You can go in and see all of that here. Yeah. Now, any questions, anything, or anything more that you want to see?
I think we are beyond the times. I try to cover as much as questions, and I believe all these questions are answered, and some of the questions are taken by yourself. But if anyone has any other questions, maybe they can raise it.
I guess I all the questions are answered, Deepak. There.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Arna,
Yeah.
for
Thank
taking
you,
out
everyone.
entire 1.5 hour and covering this detailed Jira. Just looking out the participants count, I can see just 14 are here. So rather than moving towards Mentimeter, I would prefer to give the gift vouchers to the participants who are too much involved during the sessions. So maybe Mayank and Sajit, you can ping me your email ID so that I can send out the gift vouchers to you on your email ID. Make sure to use these vouchers on a retail portal. It's not directly usable on Flipkart, but yes, you can use it in some other sites. I will share the instructions on email, so don't worry about it. Sajid, you can also share your email ID so that I can send it out. With Praveen, I've already received it. Okay, fine. Thanks a lot, everyone. I've already shared the further sessions link with you all. Feel free to use it for next sessions. So majorly we have planned on Wednesday and Friday, uh, 2 sessions in a week, so that we can try to cover it as much as possible in administrations. Anything is left out in Jira administrations, we'll try to cover in further series. So for this series, we have planned for some topics, but anything left out, we can plan it. Along with that, I've already shared the Mumbai chapter page. Feel free to join that Mumbai chapter. I'll share it again here so that it will be handy for you. And whenever you'll get registered with the Mumbai chapters, and if you'll publish any new events or any new series, you'll get notified. So I ping you in the chat. Feel free to register yourself. Okay, fine. If we don't have any questions, maybe we'll wrap up and we'll see you again on Friday. Make sure to share your feedback, suggestions on social media as well. Take out a snap of the sessions and share it on social media. If you're sharing on social media, tag us so that we can also comment on it. Thanks a lot for joining this and have a good day ahead.
Bye. Have a great day, everyone.